Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk with Ellasin, and I am Ellasin. Listen, if you are on Facebook, go ahead and hit the like buttons. If you are on YouTube, please subscribe and share it out. Tell people, hey, y'all got to tune in to Real Talk because Ellasin be talking about some real stuff that impact the community as well as the church. And with that being said, we're about to get this show started. Hey everyone, welcome to Real Talk with Ellasin, and I am Ellasin. And on today's show, we will be discussing processing emotions through trauma. So I wanted to just throw out there that June is Men's Mental Health Month, and we have been talking to the men on Men Talk with Real Talk because they have a voice, their voice matters, and it's time for our men to be heard, and it's time for us to create a safe place for them to be heard. Right. So listen, before we introduce my guest on today, which I'm so excited to have this young man, I wanted to give you guys some statistics. In the United States, there are 34.8 million children between the ages of 0 to 17. That's nearly half of American children who are exposed to some type of adverse childhood experience that can severely harm their future health and their well-being. That's a lot of children subjected to a trauma that can affect their well-being, which affects the society. So I want to say this. If you know of someone that is in a situation, domestic violence, or you know a child that's in danger, I want you to please go ahead and call the domestic violence hotline at 1-800-799-0723 or Child Protective Services, which is CPS, right? Everybody knows CPS. So I want to go ahead and say, listen, early childhood trauma transcends economic, cultural, and racial demographics. It knows no color, it knows no finances, it knows no social, it knows nothing, right? The mere fact that trauma goes through every child across every aspect of society. It can happen to anyone regardless of their background, nationality, or anything else. So trauma negatively impacts children's development of their brain. So when a child goes through trauma, it is difficult for their brain to be developed. And I found those statistics and those sayings so profound because we have a lot of our children that's exposed to a lot of different things now, gun violence in schools, you name it, it's happening, right? So with that being said, here with me on today to talk about his journey in hopes that it can help someone, right, is none other than Darrell Myles. And he is a graduate student at Southeastern Louisiana University.
How are you doing today?
Daryl, you can't come on here with that monotone voice and I'm
Oh
on
my,
extra.
you want me to be extra, extra?
Hey,
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
it's going good. Thank you guys. Y'all make sure y'all say the hey to Daryl. So Daryl, thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How old are you? What's going on with you?
I am 23 years old. I am a graduate student, like you said, at Southeastern, studying clinical mental health. Um, born in New Orleans, raised on North Shore. I kind of defected for a little bit. I am a people person. I love my people. I love my support group. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they are my rocks. They are my background. They keep me sane. They keep me going. They have been a part of the light and really been a part of the reason why I'm so grounded today.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Okay. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. I am so excited. At 23 years old, you could have been anywhere else, but you here with me.
Thursday nights with Ellison. What it
Yes. So listen, before we get into your journey, I want to ask you this. Do you think society has put a stigma on our young men and even men for that matter, on how they're supposed to deal with, their feelings or grief or trauma?
I think society has. It's something that is improving over time, but just thinking about the ways that there's a lack of spaces like created for men outside of the religious spaces. You know, you have men's group, you have those groups of those natures, but how many opportunities do men get to go hang out with the guys or with the boys and be very intentional about that time being for processing, asking questions, playing out scenarios, and like really going through life together. Um,
Yeah.
life happens, everybody has stuff to take care of, there's responsibilities, but the opportunities to really sit down and be with other men um, that are like-minded or even ahead of you or behind you and just pull everybody together is scarce now. You have to fight for it. You have to really
Wow.
fight for it.
You are already dropping bombs, and like, yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, because where are the men communities that are helping our men become healthy men, to disclose and talk about their feelings in a healthy manner? We got it, the what is it, basketball, we got all of that stuff that we can do, the gaming, but where can I go to feel safe and glean from other men, right? Because you being 23, it's important for you to have, that man in your life to just help you process some things that you haven't experienced yet.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's where I will always say I'm blessed. I've been blessed with the people around me and their parents. I've looked towards other people's parents as well as my own dad when he was alive, and just other people around me. Like, I've been lucky, but I also recognize that not every man in my life has kind of those opportunities. Um, I get the opportunity to talk to him that way. I push for that.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't happen, it won't happen. Like, if I don't push for it, it typically won't happen. If my older cousin doesn't come to me and ask me how I'm doing, it typically won't happen. If one of
Mm-hmm.
my best friend's dad isn't like, "Hey D, how are you actually doing? Outside of school, outside of your career, outside of sports, how are you actually doing? Like the life,
Mm,
the stuff that you go through daily, processing people that you have lost really quickly. Have you given
right.
yourself the time to process that? Or have you just kept on going and carrying everybody else?"
Yeah. Woo. Listen, 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 Daryl. I listen. Yeah, I'm so proud of you. Anyway, I'm not gonna go all there, but so I like that you said, "How are you doing?" Right? Because a lot of times, and I'm not a man, so I'm not really speaking, but from what I see, sometimes it's like, "Hey, what's going on? Where you work? How you work? What's this? How's family life? What you got? What projects you got going?" But how important is it for men to say, "How are you?" and meaning mentally, emotionally well.
It's huge. I mean, the other men touched on it last week, a couple of weeks ago too. Just like being able to have that language is important, but also being able to cultivate and develop that language is even more vital. Because if you don't know how to explain some things, you will never know what you're explaining. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so without the space to be like, I'm feeling something in my gut, I'm feeling something in my chest. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know where it's coming from. Versus
Mm,
being like, I have some chest tightness. I am feeling sad. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling disappointed in myself for XYZ reason. It really changes how conversations go. And
yeah.
without those opportunities to develop that vocabulary, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be missing those moments.
Yeah. That is I feel like what you just said right there was so powerful, because on a basketball court, I'm not going to tell you, yo, I'm feeling sad or whatever the case may be, but having that actual space to feel comfortable, having that safe space, That's the most important thing. And then not only having that safe space, but creating that for the young ones that's coming up behind you. I think that's really, really important. So I was reading that in early childhood trauma is one of the lengthiest lists of social determinants impacting a child, right? So when a child goes through trauma, it impacts them mentally, emotionally, socially, and it impacts their health. So with that being said, what what do you recollect as your first traumatic experience?
Oof. I would probably say I could even start with Katrina, just the emotions of that.
Mm,
That was a very like cognizant moment for a bunch of young people my age in this area. It was our first big moment at like a big natural disaster and how that affected us. And then soon after that, 3 years later, one of my best friends passed away from junior diabetes, and his family didn't know. Um,
mm,
so as a kid, just having that hit you so suddenly at the end of the school year, summer's about to come. Last time I saw him was a Friday, and then that Monday, finding out that he wasn't in the greatest condition was huge. It really changed the trajectory of my life. It really helped, but it really challenged me too. Because I went the route of being there for everyone else and trying to be
mm,
present for all my other friends because it was
mm-hmm.
new. All of us couldn't go through it. All of us couldn't be sad. Somebody had
Right.
to figure it out. But soon after, I realized that I was blessed also to be in grief counseling at school. One of the
Okay.
biggest blessings of my life. But
Okay.
that moment challenged me. Those moments really, really challenged me. Definitely, I would say Katrina, and then having a friend pass away when I was 10 years old.
So they were close, and like, so Katrina happened, and then how long before
So
the friend passing?
it was like 3 years later. Katrina was 05. Actually, 5 years later. Katrina was 05. My friend passed away 2010. But Katrina was less of a event that I was really aware of just because of my age and just not understanding it fully. I
Hmm.
think when I was 10 and I was in middle school, just being aware of the fact and really recognizing that this person's gone. Like,
Right.
there is no saying what's up to him again. There's no going to hang out with him later on the playground. He's
Hmm.
gone, and how do I deal with that?
So I find that interesting that you said that. So here we are, 10 years old, right? We went through Katrina, and now I'm dealing with this grief, right? So grief, regardless to what age you are, is something that most people don't even know how to put an emotion to, because if you think about it, Adam, when he was created, he wasn't created to die, but then sin came in the camp, and then so now we experience death. This is why it's so hard to put an emotion with grief. But yet here you are at 10 years old, and you're saying, I gotta be there for other people.
Yeah, and that was kind of what happened in those moments. Because think about it, it's really a somber thing to think about whenever. But think about the situations where you have a young member in the community pass away. All of those kids are forever linked. They are forever, like we always like to say, trauma bonded. And it's
Mm,
because they can't really put emotions on it. So the only thing they know how to do is stick together. They don't want to lose another. They don't want to get rid of anybody else. They don't want to meet new people. They want to stick together. That's who they
hmm.
know. They want to make sure that is preserved. Um, and that's really, I think, the basis of trauma bonding is just preservation, and preserving what you got.
Yeah.
Because you lost something and you didn't think you could lose it. So now you're like, oh, let me keep the rest of this intact as best as I can.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is so powerful, because especially in a society today, because we feel a lot of people are selfish. It's like, well, what about me and what am I going through? But here you are at 10 years old thinking about other people. It said speaks a lot about this young man, that he wanted to be there for others at such a young age, and even while you were going through yourself,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So how did you so children are especially vulnerable to like stress induced by trauma, right? This is a stressful time. So how were you able to manage? And I heard you say I was in grief counseling in school, but what were some other ways that you felt helped you manage?
I definitely would say that one of the things that helped me manage is my closest friends. It was a big group of us. I mean, to this day, we can still call each other. We haven't lost touch with each other. We're still in
That's good.
contact with my best friend's mom. To this day, all of us are still linked. That really kept a lot of us afloat mentally and emotionally, but it also provided us a space that a lot of people don't have the opportunity to get.
Yeah.
It was a blessing in disguise because so
Mhm.
early were we prompted to handle these emotions and explore these emotions in our immaturity and then actually grasp the concepts that we were going through at the moment.
Right. Right. So what I'm hearing is hashtag community.
Yes.
So the community rallied together instead of dealing on their own, they rallied together and y'all helped one another out, right?
Yes.
Y'all hashtag community, hashtag community. A community is important and it does take a village. So in your managing, right, in your grief, how did you deal with your own emotions? What are you now able to look back and identify what was it I was going through at that time?
Yeah, I've definitely over the years I've gotten really good at identifying my emotions, but that took I'm a self-soother by nature, but I've
Talk about
also I
that.
I like to just sit with myself and figure out what's going on. But I've also was also getting help on the back end with my elders, my great grandmother, my mom, my aunts, my cousins, my uncles, and just speaking to me and helping me grasp the concept of it is okay to be sad. It is okay to
Mhm,
cry. It is okay to miss this person. How do you want to show what they embedded into you? Do you
mm,
want to completely shut down or do you want to show the light that they gave to you?
yeah.
That person was impactful to you. So how can you be impactful to the next person? How can you
Mm,
carry their legacy on? And that's really the biggest thing that I carried with me. And that's like you spoke to a lot of kids once they go through trauma, experience a social change. I went from a shy, timid, probably 10 friends to being a social butterfly because at such a young age, I thought to myself, the one thing that stuck with me was I didn't get to tell him that I loved him enough. And that changed everything. And I was like,
yeah,
cool, I'm never doing that again. People will know that I love them. I don't care.
that's right.
I don't care what the relationship is. It has prompted me to other challenges now, but I'm steadfast on it. It's a part of my core. People will know that I
Yeah.
love them, and it is what it is. It's
And
part of it.
that's so impactful that you say that because a lot of people are out here feeling lonely, unloved, and just to hear somebody say, "Hey, I see you. Hey, I love you," right? And you learned that, okay, well, I didn't tell, my friend enough, but I'm not going to make that same mistake. And I think, that is really encouraging because us adults, I can't stand the word busy. Like, I'm sorry, this is real talk with
Mhm.
Ellison, but I can't stand the word busy. Like, you can't respond to a text message 2, 3 days later because you were that busy, or
Mhm.
you can't say, "Hey, how are you doing?" because you're that busy. So is more important to just reach out and say, "Hey, thinking about you. Hey, love you," versus living in regret of I didn't say that. So I think what you said at 23 can actually help us as adults to say, life does get busy, but we should never be too busy to just say, "Hey, thinking about you."
Yeah, and that's also the shame that comes with just seeming lukewarm and half-hearted in some things. Um, far
Woo,
too far too
mic
often
drop.
far too often people see little actions and think that they're half-hearted, and really and truly I can send a random text to one of my friends in Minnesota and they know that I purposely thought about them. It wasn't just to say it, it wasn't just to be funny or casual, just to like remind them that I'm here, it's because I actually genuinely thought about them.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of times people feel the need to have full on conversations when those little moments come in instead of being okay with, hey, I love you, checking on you, hope you're doing well. And that
Right.
being enough for the friendship.
Yeah.
A lot of people require more investment to show their friendship instead of just being okay with some, you know, I don't want to say superficial, but like more casual passing by.
Yeah. Just the intentional, I'm thinking about you.
Hmm.
Yeah. I get it. That's really good. So I heard you say that you went from being introverted to now you were this social butterfly. So tell me a little bit about your school experience, right? Because here you are, the social butterfly, but even as a social butterfly, things happen in school.
100%. It definitely does. There's a lot of miscues. There's a lot of lessons to be learned. It wasn't easy because, of course, there's still those daily generational ideas and thoughts about male and female, boy and girl, and who you should be friends with, who you shouldn't be friends with, and what that looks like. A lot of the people in my schools were challenged on the ways that we handled friendships. For
Mm-hmm.
the longest time, we all were just friends with each other, and that was okay. Of course, then society crept in with the, oh, you hang out with a girl, you must like her. Oh, you hang out with this boy, you must like him. And some, of course, fell for it and chose to try to stay away from that viewpoint and kind of
Mm-hmm.
feed into like, we're still friends, but we're not as close as we should be, um, because I let this viewpoint get to me. I, on the other hand, was just like, all these young girls in my life are not leaving because they helped me become who I am. So that definitely led to some bullying that I had to experience and walk through. Um,
Wow.
but
So now you're being bullied.
hmm and it's typically it's always from those who don't understand, never from people who get it. It wasn't the people that sat with me in those moments. It was the people who didn't really know us too well, who's like,
Right.
why are you so close with them? Like, y'all aren't dating, you don't have a crush on her, you're just friends with her. Like, yes, this is my friend. That is all it looks like.
Right. So
But
with bullying, right? I was reading where there is approximately 46% of the students ages 12 to 18 who were bullied, right? And this means bullied during the school year, and that's the ones that reported it. There's a whole lot more that do not report it at all. So, for you to say being bullied, what does that look like? Because some people feel like bullying means they're hitting you, they're beating you up daily, different things like that. But share your viewpoint of what you feel bullying was to you.
I would probably have to frame it in a different way. Bullying is the little things sometimes. It's
Hmm.
the little side remarks. It is the being excluded for certain reasons. It's the being looked at and being held to a certain standard because of certain reasons. Like, I didn't play football until junior high. I tended to be in my books. I tended to want to play in the band, which was still something that was still relevant. But since I
Hmm.
was missing the societal aspect of playing sports or doing certain activities all the time, I was looked at like I was more feminine. Um,
Right.
just because I was able to be in their space without really carrying myself a certain way.
Hmm.
It is always it's always for what makes you unique, is never for what makes you similar.
Yeah. Wow. I like that statement.
It's just the things that, like, I realized, like, it was always because there was something unique about me. I love
Yeah.
books, I love drawing, I loved music, I loved certain TV shows. It was never like, oh, we wear the same clothes, oh, we wear the same shoes, but my shoes are newer than yours. It was always little stuff that really hit deep because it was intentional and it was personal.
Yeah, because they were almost trying to stop you from being unique.
Hmm.
Right, you were being you, and because you wasn't doing the norm. And I remember my son telling me, he said, I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact words, but he said something along the lines with somebody told him, "Oh, you think you white because you talk proper."
Oh, that one right there.
Yeah.
Little microaggressions, gotta love them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
So, do you feel like you was accepted by, your community?
that is such a loaded question. Um, I was accepted by the community that I chose, not by the one that I could have been placed in. Um,
Mm,
so I could have been in a different community based on my choices and based on my upbringing. But I really did a good job at choosing people that wanted me to be around.
mm,
Um, did I ever feel accepted for the longest time? I felt conflicted in my identity because of those microaggressions of you talk white, you sound proper, you're the whitest black kid that I know. And it's like, now if you want me to get mad and my New Orleans accent come out, we could do that. But I'm not doing it. But it's just like, why does the way that I choose to say these words matter? Like my
mhm.
point is still getting across. You can understand what I'm saying, and it's really not that big of a deal. I choose
Yeah.
not to use slang whenever I'm talking about something, but you know what
Yes.
I'm talking about. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, hashtag choices, because we do have a choice, and here you are. And I want to say that, kudos to your environment, kudos to your village, because that's how you became who you are, right? So kudos to them for even developing the young man that you are. And definitely hands down, my hat is off to you for choosing to make those choices that was right for you, and not trying to fit into society, right? Because society says that we should do this and we should look like this, and we should speak like this. But your choice was, this is me and I'm going to remain uniquely me. You either love me for me, or I have no space for you.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
that's the truth. It's like, even if someone didn't have the space for me, they were going to have to recognize the space I took up. Like,
Oh,
you.
stop. Stop, Jesus. He said, did y'all hear what he said? He said, even if you don't have the space for me, you're going to have to recognize the space I took up. Go ahead, my young brother.
I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm not saying nothing better than this. It's been fun. I'm just kidding.
That was a powerful statement. That was a powerful statement, because so many, even as adults, are looking for a circle to belong in, instead of staying in their space and letting their space take up and creating the circle,
Hmm.
right? Woo, child. I learned to just stop. Don't be so loud, because I be getting in trouble. But if I could yell right now, I would do it, because that was so powerful. And that needs to be on a t-shirt. So don't get mad if you see it me put it on a t-shirt. But anyway, that was really good, because that speaks to the young man, that you know who you are, right? So I think that was really, really powerful. Listen, if you guys know anybody being bullied, or if y'all want more information about being bullied, you can go to stopbullying.gov, right? www.stopbullying.gov, because a lot of our children are being bullied for their uniqueness, and just because, what, and then we also have to, pray for the bully, because something's going on there too, right? So Daryl, let's get back to talking about these choices. So you're a young man,
Hmm.
right? You're a young man, you're a black young man, and you're in Louisiana. There's a lot going on down there. Is it difficult to remain true to who you are?
I would say that sometimes, yes, it was extremely difficult at times. I think I had the luxury of not being in certain neighborhoods or environments fully to where I was okay after school. But say I was by a family member's house or a friend that I grew up with, that's whenever I got tested the most. When I'm by the kids that were the main ones bullying me or looking at me differently, or who
Mm-hmm.
didn't like the fact that I hung out with certain people. When I was around them, and not in a safe space, but not at school. Like in the neighborhoods, after school, day to day. Um, those are the moments where I kind of had to figure out if I was going to kind of mold and change into what they are, or just keep on being me and kind of
Mm-hmm.
suck it up and keep doing my thing.
Okay. So when you chose to just keep being me,
Mhm.
let them, and that's a lesson we all can learn. Let them accept you for being who you are, right? Don't change to conform. That's powerful right there. So going through school, it sounds like you had quite a bit of challenges. I know you said that your friend passed away. You was around 10 years old or so.
Mhm.
What other traumas have you, or experiences that were emotional, that you've been through?
So not even a full year later, after my friend passed away, my dad was shot. Um, so I wasn't even fully through the grief counseling completely before that happened, and my dad was in Texas. Me and him were extremely close, so I was coming out of it. I was getting somewhere, and then that happened, which was huge for me, because I kind of replayed the same lessons that I learned from Nathan. With my dad, it was just I feel like I didn't say I love you enough, but I had to remind myself that I did. Every time I
Yeah.
talked to him, I did. Every time we spoke, every time we chatted, everything he put into me, now it's time to just carry on what he wanted to give me. It
Mm,
wasn't time for me to abandon the lessons he gave me. It was time for me to hold on to them and really utilize them. Um,
yeah.
because there was times where I could have just said, forget all this. I'm gonna be a recluse. I'm gonna stay to myself. I really don't want to make new friends because every time I get more friends, I lose somebody. That's not
Jeez.
the way that I was raised to be. It was
Right.
go find more people to share your light with. Um,
Mm.
and that was always something that sticks with me to this day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And again, I don't know how long it's been, but condolences, about your dad, because, it's one thing to lose a parent with an illness, or but to that was a traumatic experience to lose. You know what? Listen, hashtag sending love. Sending love. We need to send love to Daryl right now. Ooh, send love.
I appreciate it.
Right. So that was traumatic. And like you said, you know, it started playing in my mind. I didn't tell him that I loved him enough, right? But you were able to, and I heard you talk about you being a self-soother. So you were able to sit with yourself and understand that, you know what, I did. I
Mhm.
I did tell him enough. How important is that father son relationship, because so many of our men don't tell their sons that I love you, because we got to be hard.
Mhm.
So how important was that relationship?
It was huge. Being the youngest of four, it was something that my dad did with all of us. Of course, I was probably too young to remember most of it, but definitely it's not something I know for a fact. If he did it with me, he did it with the others. There's no
Mhm.
way that he just skipped the other children just to do it to me. It's not.
Mhm.
It wasn't in my father's character. It's from all the stories that I've heard about him. If he did it with one of us, he did it with all of us. We
Mhm.
didn't have a favorite, even though I'm named after him. Still wasn't his favorite. But definitely, it's just like lessons that he passed on to me personally and to my siblings. They passed
Mhm.
on to me. They would tell me, "Well, Dad carried himself this way. Dad was this type of person. We know you don't remember, but this is the type of man that Dad was, and
Yeah,
you are reminding us of him. So
yeah.
keep it going."
Well, see, that's what I'm talking about. A community, they're even letting you know that your characteristics are mimicking, his, and and keeping the memory alive. Because so many times we want to think about the bad times, the bad things people done, but just to keep the memory alive, keep the good things going, right? And that's pouring into you, so now you can pour into others.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. I
Yeah.
realized that that with the grief and the trauma, it's always about figuring out what does your cup look like and how do you make it bigger to hold what you have, what you're going through. Far too often people get stuck with a small cup and then something happens in life and then they don't want to grow. um,
Yeah.
Grief is not a sprint, it's not a race, it is a journey. You're going to
Yeah.
be going through it for your entire life.
That's right.
Like even today my best friend that passed away in fifth grade. His birthday's today, and it's been what 13 years now. I
Yeah.
still think about him. I still process those things. It's a journey. It's
Right.
a part of you. So it's just about how can you grow with those things that has affected you, and not let them be bad memories, but be something you celebrate because you take comfort in knowing that there was a reason that you had them for as long as you did.
Yeah.
Their mission was done. How do you keep their mission going? How do you keep on building upon what they set forth?
Mm. Yeah, he said this boy is dropping bars, and you are so right. Like, how do I keep that going? And you said something about a cup, and you said, how can I get a bigger one to keep going? The one thing that I want to say is, so many people keep their cup so full
Hmm.
of stuff that's not important, that when time comes, I don't have the capacity, mentally or emotionally, to deal with anything. And this is when the trauma or the grief, or the experience at the time hits so hard, because I have my cup full of so much negativity that is no room left. So I think when you talked about that cup that is big, so what am I filling my cup with, so
Hmm.
that I can have the capacity to deal, right? Because my thing, y'all know my thing, guys, on Real Talk: feel, deal, and heal. That's my thing: feel, deal, and heal. But again, if I'm so busy with life, if I'm having a whole bunch of my circles negative, how can I really feel, deal, and heal? Because I don't have the space
Hmm.
for anything positive. So that's good. I'm glad you have brought up about the cup. So we have Katrina, we have your friend Nate, we have your dad, Daryl, bullying. What else is going on?
Oh my goodness, I'm just rehashing everything. High high school, we lost a couple classmates, um, really close to us across the whole school. And then when I got to undergrad, I left the good old South. My mom still hates me for it. That's another story. Went to
Don't say
Minnesota.
that out loud.
I tell she knows it. I tell her every time, like, you really hate that I went up there. She's like, yes. Went to Minnesota freshman year. I got a phone call while I was taking my biology test, and my grandmother has suddenly passed away or went to the hospital. Um, so it was my grandmother freshman, my first year, second year, another close friend, drunk driving accident at LSU, and then the next year following, I had my great grandmother pass away, which was like my second mother. So the the one thing that I say about those things happening back to back to back, my mom was extremely worried about me. My family was, my friends were. They were calling me nonstop. My friends from here, from home, actually flew me out to go be at my friend's funeral. Um, I was able to come home for my grandmother's funeral, but the one thing they asked me was how was I doing,
Yeah.
and really giving me the space to process. They're like, "How are you doing?" Because you spend so much time trying to juggle everything, take care of everybody else. Who is taking care of you?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can give us a very reasonable answer, we will let you slide on not talking. But
Yeah.
they knew, they pried it out of me. It was a sit down. I felt like I was getting interrogated, spotlight. Who's checking on you, Diesel? I'm like, them and them and them. You
Okay.
want to see my phone?
Yeah.
Um, but it was just, I am also, I reap the benefits of dealing with the grief at such a young age, because those things in undergrad are debilitating. They can totally change the course of your schooling, your education, what
That's
you want
right.
to do, where you're at. Given I was across the country and away from my family, I could have chose to come back home sooner.
Yeah.
But that was just them instilling life lessons from when I was a kid. Stick with what
Yeah.
you're doing, keep on working, everything will take care of itself. Those people are leaving when their missions are done. It is
Yeah.
okay. If you need to cry, take time for yourself to cry. If you need to be mad at the world, take time to be mad at the world, but don't stay in it too long. You have too
That
much.
right there. That right there. Don't stay in it too long. That right there is so powerful because if you listening to you, Daryl, you had what we call layers,
Mhm,
right? You had layers of trauma, and most people with layers of trauma, they can come out with PTSD, they can come out with dissociative disorder, they can come out with so many different kind of mental, mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, you name it, you can come out of it. But again, I'm going back to what you said is a self-soother to process it and then to be able to release it,
mhm,
feel, deal, and heal. Because it's those steps that are having you here today in your right mind. You articulate your words and your feelings very well. And again, I seen where Jaquita said, I'm so proud of you. And I am so proud of you because it takes a real man to be able to sit and identify what they feel, more or less convey it to the world.
mhm.
So thank you. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing us into a glimpse of your world, and how you managed through. And also, with that being said, with the layers, there's some people that are not even here with us anymore because they couldn't handle the layers.
Mhm.
And I was reading in 2021, it said that the male suicide rate is 4 times higher than females, right? And the males make up about 50% of the population, but yet is 80% of the suicide rate because the men don't speak. I was going to say we, but the men don't really speak. So with you speaking, you're able to release those feelings, right? And I'm gonna ask you, have you ever dealt with suicide ideation?
I dealt with them very passively, um,
Okay.
in the mixture of bullying and self esteem issues and things of that nature, and just building up. It was very passively. I didn't sit on it too long.
Mhm.
Thankfully, I was able to surround myself with the community, um,
Amen.
and pull myself out of it. But I have been around people who have dealt with it very intensely.
Yeah.
That's why I'm such an advocate for just talk to somebody, check on everybody. You can never check on someone too much, um,
Right.
because you never know what they're going through. And if you feel like you're being annoying, that means that you're doing it enough. You should feel like you're being a pest at times. And definitely call. Have one person you trust to call. Your
Yeah.
village is everything, but that person that you can bring to hold you down when you're at your weakest is even more important. Um,
That is so good.
the more the
Yeah.
merrier, of course, but not everybody has the luxury of trusting people on that level and that depth as much.
Right.
But it's very important to find, if it's a mentor, if it's someone that you do life with, if it's a partner, if it's a best friend, if it's a coach, if it's a teammate, if it's a teacher, really and truly find someone. If it's somebody's parent that you feel safe with, don't
Yeah.
be afraid to broach those conversations because you think that you're going to get turned away.
Right. Right. And I like that you thank you for your honesty, right? Because it's real. And you said I dealt with it passively. And there's the suicide ideation where I'm, developing a plan and I'm dealing with it, like you said, intensively, and it's really struggling me. And then there's the other side, then there's the other suicide ideation, which is like, all of these problems, I just can't take it no more, maybe I shouldn't even be here.
Mhm.
That is the vague, we call vague suicide ideation. But we have to be careful even when we say using those vague ideation, because if we stay in those, then it can start turning into, suicide ideation. So I just want to say to anybody, if you're out there experiencing any kind of ideation, right, please, our national suicide hotline is 988, is flashing across the screen. And then be careful of the vague ideation, whether you're arguing, whether you're going through a lot. Be careful with the I can't take this no more. I don't want to be here no more. I just wish everything would stop, because sitting in that can lead to something much more serious. Okay. And so I'm grateful, Daryl, that what you had. Listen, guys, hashtag it takes a village. So I'm grateful that you had a village, and I'm more grateful that you reached out and you talked to someone in your village. So hashtag it takes a village, right? And so with that being said, I want to say that that Jaquita said that, Daryl, is it hard for you to show emotions as a man?
Oof, are you asking 23-year-old me, or are you asking 13-year-old me?
Let's do the timeline. 13-year-old
Um,
you to 20, that's 10 years.
it it was extremely hard for me to show my emotions as a man up until probably junior high. This was a couple years afterwards, after my best friend had passed away, my dad. I was still struggling to talk about my dad and Nathan out loud, but I was pushing myself to do it. As I continued to do it and I practiced it, it became easier for me to show my emotions, um, and figure out ways of releasing it in a controlled environment, in a controlled manner, to where I didn't get, out of line, uncontrollably crying, things where I couldn't shake back from, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but definitely it took a lot of practice. It took finding my safe spaces and just
Mm,
trusting that I had safe spaces in places I probably didn't, and just going with it. Um,
yeah.
because you never know until you try. You never know
Right.
until you even venture into that realm.
So let me ask you this. How much work did you have to put into finding your safe space?
Oof. I had to put in a lot of work. It was handed to me because I had such a big village, because of those events that happened, but I still had to find a discernment to figure out who did I really trust on these levels.
Mm,
There are different levels of friendships, there's different levels of relationships, there's different levels of partnerships. Finding who you feel comfortable telling the worst of the worst to,
yeah.
the unbearable, the stuff that you hide in your closet, those are the ones that you really have to practice on. And you have to really and truly, it takes asking them if they're ready to accept that from you, because you don't want to be reaching out to a closed door. You don't want to be reaching out to something that's not available. You want
Okay,
to.
wait, stop. Give me a minute. Okay? Just give me 1 minute here, young man. He said, you don't want to be reaching out to a closed door. Viewers, did y'all hear what this young man said? He said, you don't want to be reaching out to a closed door. And the reason why I had to pause right there is because sometimes we want to belong, we want to fit in, we want to circle, we want a village so bad that we'll keep knocking on a closed door to people that don't want us. Ooh, Lord have mercy, Daryl. Okay, all right, okay, go ahead. Eric said zoinks.
But yeah, it's like you have to figure out those
Whew.
people are that have a crack, because it may be a crack because they don't know how to be there for you. It may be a crack
Right.
because they feel like they're busy, but you have to figure out who has an opening for you. It
Yes.
may not be the most wide open door where you can just walk in and out at any time. You may have to communicate to them, hey, I need you this weekend. Hey,
Yeah.
I need you in a couple days. I'm going through something right now, but I want to process it later.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know what is going on right now, but I need someone to sit on the phone with me.
Right.
Like, can you
I
come sit with me?
Yeah. I like that you said that you have to use that you use discernment. And I say that because everybody's not ready for your story. Everybody's not ready for your story. So, be careful who you trying to tell your story to.
And that's real. It's also knowing who can take on your story. It's it does you no good if you're reaching out to someone who cannot even give you the mental space and the emotional space to even be
Okay. All
present.
right. Hold
Leave.
I feel like somewhere we're siblings, and I say this often. It's okay to say I don't have the mental capacity to deal with that right now, right? But so many people don't, and they try to be there for you, but in the meantime, it's bogging them down. It's bogging them down, and now they're carrying around your stuff, my stuff, somebody else's stuff, but it takes a whole different mental and emotional capacity to even discern who can be there for me when I need it. Okay, Carolyn said, "Young man, you are wise beyond your years." And she ain't never lied. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Um, but yeah, like I would tell my friends growing up, like I am always open because I
Mhm,
always found a way to keep that room for other people because I was so good and I trained myself in self-soothing. So I
mhm.
I had an open door, but I would have to tell some of my friends like, "Hey, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, not the one to go to right now. They're caught up. They are too caught up in everything else going on that you're sitting here trying to talk to them and you're getting nowhere. You're being dismissed and it's really changing the way that your relationship looks. Why
Mm,
would you put a negative viewpoint or negative view on your relationship just because someone isn't ready to provide for you in that space? And that's
right.
okay. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice to
Mm,
be there for someone in different ways and knowing who can be there for you.
yeah.
A lot of times I would have to go to one person or two people or older family members before my friends. And really and truly, I had to prep my friends and be like, hey, I'm about to venture into this space. Let me know when you're ready to handle it. Like,
Yeah.
I need to talk about this topic. If you don't feel comfortable, let me know because
Mm,
I will go find someone that is so I can fully process it. Um, because really and truly, I don't want to, you don't always want to go to someone who has no knowledge on something because
yeah.
it will be spinning your wheels sometimes. Sometimes that's what you need. You need to sit in the mud with somebody and be like, okay, I'm a back wheel, you're a back wheel, but you don't know why you're here. Help me get out the mud. Just
Mm,
here. Like, we're going to
yeah.
figure this out. I just need someone to be present with me. Um,
Yeah.
but
Woo.
it's really important to find out which of your friends and which of your people around you have those capabilities.
Yeah. I think that's important that you said that because, because of some things that I went through in life, I dealt with rejection and abandonment. And I just, I want somebody to know that I want somebody to tell me, hey, I care about you, I love you, and different things like that. But I have recently taken on the mindset of I can't make myself a priority in other people's life. So I have to be comfortable with those times that I have to sit with me. And hearing you say, know who you can go to, know who you can talk to, that is so important because again, everybody doesn't have the mental space for you. So if you're dealing with rejection or abandonment or a different and or a sense of wanting to belong, you have to be careful. That's knocking on that door that's not open because you're saying, hey, see me. But the best thing I could have ever done was taking on that mindset. I can't make me a priority. So you know what? Let me go ahead, sit with me or knock on that door, like you said, that have a crack. I think that's important. And especially in our young people on today, because society says you have to belong to
Hmm.
something. What does Daryl belong to?
I I belong to everything and nothing. I have a very strong core and belief in my faith. I belong to that. I belong to the people that choose me. I belong to everyone that seeks me out. And I also
Mm-hmm.
belong to those who envy me. Um, in that sense, I still look at those who may not like me and I still will be there for them
Mm-hmm.
because who knows what my conversation could do to them? Who
Mm-hmm.
knows? I could say something and it completely changed their mindset about something.
That's
I
right.
can't choose how someone feels about me. I can only choose how I present myself to them.
Yes. 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 I heard you say faith. And I think that's powerful because we have to know that it's not by our strength, right? And what's the Williams, she says, sit with me, myself, and I. That's we have to learn to be comfortable with me, myself, and I. But again, I would say this. We got to also be careful with sitting with me, myself, and I, because if we're saying the wrong stuff, all of us talking wrong. So this is where faith, this is where okay, you know what, maybe I'm not processing this right. Let me reach out to my village. So, I think that is profound because we have to be comfortable with sitting with me, myself, and I. And sometimes it's the quiet, not sometimes, it's the quietness where God really truly speaks to us. Right. So that's so important. So you said, I belong where I am. That's what I heard you to say. I belong right where I am.
You can stick me anywhere, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm here. What's up? Like, this is my
Right.
place. I'm supposed to be here, obviously. Because you
Yes.
couldn't have told me that I was supposed to be at a private conservative Christian college in the middle, like in Minnesota. You couldn't have told me that years ago. If I would have had to bet anything, I would have been back in Arizona or Texas at one of the big universities, not
Right.
in Louisiana, in those two states. But I got placed somewhere, and
Mhm.
that place led me to different journeys, different avenues, finding different people that I never thought I would meet. I found my true identity up there because I got around other men that looked like me, that thought like me, that was unique in
Mhm.
similar ways that I was unique. Um, and I found an even bigger village, an even similar village up there. I found mentors that were in my age range. That is
Mhm.
something that is so hard to discover. To sit
Yes.
there and figure out, okay, this guy, this woman is 2 to 3 years older than me, but I'm going to trust them with like big life decisions and big life conversations. These men are my safe space for very modern topics when I don't want to go to the elder generation,
Yeah.
when I don't want to sit with myself, when I'm at my weakest, at my lowest. These are the men I'm going to reach out to whenever I think about quitting football, or I'm questioning doing sports, or I'm questioning transferring back home, when I'm
Right.
trying to navigate these different relationships and what it looks like, when I'm trying
Mm.
to figure out what my personality is and where I fit as a Christian, as a man, as a young black man in America, as just Daryl. It takes really finding those people you can do that with, and it's hard. It is so
Yeah.
hard. It
It
is
is so hard. Oh
one of
my
the
goodness.
hardest tasks, but you have to find people that's willing to sit with you. You have to find people that's willing to challenge you. You have to find people that's willing to tell you that you're wrong. If you don't
Yes,
have someone
that
that's
part.
that you're wrong, like it's just
That part. You gotta let if somebody you gotta have those friends that are willing that are saying, okay, you're wrong, and that's okay. It's okay. That's what makes a friendship. If everything's going right all the time, what's really wrong? You know what I'm saying? So you gotta tell me when I'm wrong. If you want to be my friend, let me know when I'm wrong. Don't just let me be out here. So I appreciate that. Listen, you have been watching Real Talk with Ellison, and we have been talking to Darrell Myles, and he has been taking us through his journey. And this young man has been dropping some bombs, as one viewer has said. So, Daryl, as we get ready to come, listen, guys, before we even go into the end of the show, I'm just gonna let y'all know, Daryl. And I think I mentioned this to him. If I didn't, he know now. But I'm gonna get him to come back with some other youth folks, and we're gonna talk about their perspective of relationships, marriage, and everything else. Because yeah, I'm excited to hear what the young folks think. Anyway, so Daryl, as we wrap up Real Talk with Ellison, right? give us a nugget. Give the young men, you had a timeline from 13 to 23. Give the young men a nugget. Give our men a nugget about emotions and dealing and feeling and using their words.
Practice the ways that you label your emotions and your feelings daily, whether
Mm,
it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's the worst thing that you ever felt in your life. When you're happy, be happy. Label it excited. When you're sad, when you're upset, when you're frustrated, label it that. And then figure out what that means to you. And figure
mm-mm.
out what to do next.
Yeah. Ooh, he said, label your words, man. Label your words. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So, Daryl, we are grateful to have been blessed with your presence on this show on today. And I just know that God is going to continue to bless him. So, keep your eyes on him and stick with your village, right?
Mhm.
So, we'll see you in a few minutes. Hold on, okay? All right, listen, guys. We have been talking to Darrell Myles on Real Talk with Ellasin, and I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, what you waiting for? We got some good shows coming up. So I also want to say, I know this is men talk, but if you've been anywhere lately, you know that we've been having some issues with our air. We've been having the particles from Canada's fires. We've been having a lot of things. So I have a doctor that's coming on next week, and he's going to talk to us about the air quality and how to get different things about our medication when we can't get there. We're going to talk about how it impacts the men's health, the women's health. So, yeah, tune in next week to Real Talk with Ellasin. Thank you so much for watching. God bless. Mwah.